Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sukhpal Singh Gill. In this video, I would like to talk about everything you need to know about research methodology. And this is basically a beginner's guide on writing and publishing an effective research paper, how to write a review paper, and how to submit your paper to the journal. Let's start this online session. So in this online session, I would like to talk about the following topics, including what is research, what is research methodology, what are the main steps for research, what are the main requirements of research, what are the types of research, including its classification, what is the role of your supervisor, how you can generate idea on the top of literature, how to organize research paper or review paper, and finally how you can submit your research paper to a journal or conference for the possible publication. An important term, that is research. To understand this word, first we have to understand the another word, that is search. What is search? Try to find something by looking or otherwise seeking carefully and thoroughly. Thoroughly means we have to search something from the database, we have to search something from Google. So these are many things which we are doing on our daily basis. So that is searching something which is already existing. Now I would like to talk about another term, that is research. So searching again. Why we have to search? Why we have to do research? Because we want to build some new conclusions, new facts based on the existing literature. So in this definition you can see the systematic investigation. We have to conduct systematic investigation through which we have to find out or we have to establish some of the facts based on the existing literature, and also we can build up some new conclusions. So when we do generally research in the PhD or masters, we have to look for a literature and we have to find out the research gaps, and based on those gaps we have to find out the limitations or challenges in the existing study or existing research. Then based on our experience, whatever knowledge we have to try to implement something new or try to design new approach which could be useful or which could mitigate those challenges or problems. And these kind of new solutions which we can build up using our latest knowledge or latest technologies, and to solve these existing problems, to tackle these kind of problems. So this is basically a research. Research means we have to investigate systematically, and it is also like creative and systematic work undertake to increase the knowledge. So through research we can collect data, we can organize that data, we can analyze, and through this we can build up the new solution which can solve the previous shortcomings or limitations. And this research is ongoing, so there is no starting point and there is no ending point. It is ongoing. We have to improve the existing things by utilizing our newly learned knowledge or skills. So I hope you can understand this is a very simple definition of or simple explanation of term research. Now let us talk about another term, that is research methodology, in detail. So let us talk about research methodology, what it is, and for understanding it very easily, so I have divided this research methodology into various subparts. So first one is find the general domain. So you have to find out the general domain in which you want to conduct the research, such as like it could be computer science, it could be law, it could be political science, whatever it is. Then you have to select subdomain. So in case if you are selecting, we can say that computer science, in that you can select a subdomain networking or like a cloud computing, and then select topic as general. So general topic means it's like a you can say that cloud computing applications. So then you have to conduct a literature review to understand what are the gaps. You have to find the gaps in the existing studies, and then based on those gaps you have to build your problem. So that's main thing. So then you have to fix your title of research, and on the basis of that title you are going to conduct thorough literature review and define the problem statement, and based on that problem statement you need to define the objectives, which should be at least 3 to 4 objectives, and then you have to set the methodology and find the existing solution for your problem. So if you are able to find out the various solutions which are existing in the literature and try to solve the same problem, that is very important to find out. So next you have to find the limitations in the existing solutions, so which you want to you can say study and you want to overcome, or you want to work on those limitations. And based on these existing solutions you have to select the parameters which you want to optimize, which you want to evaluate during your performance analysis. And next you have to find out what could be the better solution for this same problem which you can choose. So once you decide that you're going to do this approach, or you're going to use this approach for the to solving this problem, then you need to set up experimental test bed, or it could be simulator or it could be real test bed, which you need to use to test your approach in the controlled environment. Then once you have your experimental setup is ready, then you have must have some baseline or existing solutions, and you have to use those baselines to validate your proposed approach in terms of these selected parameters, and you need to show how your approach is better than the existing solutions. Finally, once you have a experimental results from your technique and the baselines, then you are able to compare and analyze those experimental results to find out how this performance has been improved, what kind of parameters you have been optimized in your research, so you can analyze your experimental results. And finally you have to conclude your research, and in this you have to find out the key outcomes of your research or main findings of your research, and readers can find out these are the main findings, but still you have a room for improvements. That will be the part of the future work. You can advise to the future readers, they can work on these future directions to improve the research in the future. The first step in the research methodology will be find a general domain. So you can start your research journey by reading undergraduate textbooks. Like in computer science field, if you want to work in the resource management and cloud computing, you can take operating systems. So then have you zeroed on some topics in which you have become interested? So this is the question, next question you must have. Yes, brilliant. Now pick up some PG level book on that particular topic. So that will give you more advanced knowledge as compared to the undergraduate textbook. So next, once you have a little bit more knowledge about that particular topic or domain, then you have to check whether you have some knowledge about those chapters which you have studied just now from the PG level book or not. If not, then but you want to explore further, then that's the good news. You're going for further research, or you can say actual research, that is from top journals or from conferences. So you can explore various journals and their research articles to find out the general domain, to select the general domain for your research. So this is the flow chart you have to follow, starting from undergraduate textbook, then PG level book, and finally the scientific journals you can choose. So when you will read textbook from undergraduate, PG level textbook, and you can say that various research papers from the scientific journals, then you must make brief notes on what you find interesting during your whole process of selecting the domain. So this will help you to select the subdomain in that particular area. So you have to also look for any problem or solution in which you strike an idea that it may have been done differently. Like there are many solutions existing in the literature, but you could have think in that way that could be also solved in a different way, which could be also optimal. So any open problems encountered, so during your reading of textbooks, research papers, or we can say the PG level textbooks, you could also find some of the open problems as a future work. So you can also work on those areas. And any limitation of current work, that will be also part of the future work, but also it will be, you can find these limitations in the analysis or discussion section of the research article, which will also help you to you can say design your, or you can say develop your subdomain in that particular general domain that you have selected from the reading textbooks. Okay, so after selecting domain and subdomain, now it is the time to select topic as general, which could be also a challenging thing to find out the interesting topic or research topic you want to explore. So here are some tips that you can use to select your topic. The first is choose a topic that you are interested in. That's very much important. You must have interest to explore that topic, otherwise it will be totally useless. The search process is more relevant if you care more about your topic. So if you like the topic, then obviously you will have a better outcome. So narrow your topic to something manageable. So means your topic should be narrow and you can easily focus on that particular topic. Otherwise it will be too difficult to manage. So like if your topic is too broad, then you will find too much information and not be able to focus on particular aspect. So better to find out a narrow topic on which you can conduct your research. And further background reading, as I explained, such as like reading textbooks, UG level, PG level, or research papers can also help you to find out the choose an appropriate research area and limit the scope of your topic. So these are the few tips you can use to select your topic for your research. So during the selection process of your general topic, you have to answer the 5 different questions which will help you to decide your topic to conduct further research. So which can include who, what, when, where, why. So these kind of 5 questions you have to answer or you have to think. Let us discuss one by one. The first one is why. Why did you choose the topic? What is the main interesting point in this topic? Do you have any opinion or your personal opinion about the issues involved in this particular research topic? The next one will be who. Who are the information provider on this topic? Is that information is reliable or not? Who might publish information about it? What kind of journals, what kind of textbooks are there which are publishing research about this particular topic? Who is affected by the topic? And you can say that who are involved in that particular topic, and we are talking about what are the things in that particular topic, and do you know about journals or topics. So in this context, you must know about what scientific journal is publishing research related to this particular topic. Next one is what. What are the major issues for this topic, and are there a range of issues and viewpoints to consider for your research or not? You have to think about this also. The next one is where. Where is your topic important? At local level, at national level, or international level? You have to find out whether your research will be only limited to your national level or it will be go for international level as well. So are there specific research effects by the topic or not? You have to find out. The final one is when. When was your topic important? So you must check whether your topic is important presently or not. Is it a current event or any historical issue? So you have to think about this also. If it is current topic, then it's very, you can say, hotspot, and it's very interesting to conduct research on this time. But if something is historical issue, then you have to go through the lot of literature to find out whether you can research more or not, as already you can say the vast amount of research has been done in the past. Do you want to compare your topic by time periods? That's another thing. So you have to find out the how this particular research topic has been evolved. You can say within the various years or decades, you have to find out, and based on the topic you are going to select. So now it's the time to do literature survey. So before doing literature survey, you should have following four questions in your mind. The first one is why you are going to do literature review. What is literature review? How do I get started? And you need to find out the correct or authentic sources from where you can find out the existing literature. So that's very important. So let us discuss one by one in the next slide. So let us discuss about first question, that is why write a literature review. A literature review shows that why you are going to conduct this investigation and how it is related to your particular problem. So we can also call it as a related work. So a literature review demonstrates that you can understand and critically analyze the existing research in that field, and you need to select the particular research paper or more than one papers as a base paper. So on the top of that, you can develop your own research. So it also shows how your investigation related to the existing papers or existing research. It reveals the contribution that your investigation makes to this gap and what you're going to build on the top of that, and it offers evidence that may help to explain the your outcomes or findings at the later stage. In this slide, I'm going to talk about what is a literature review. So a literature review is basically analysis of the existing research in that particular field. That's it. And how it relates to your investigation. So you have to find out the gaps in the existing literature and justify how your investigation may help answer some of the questions or gap in this research in this particular area. So a literature review is basically a systematically studies of you can say that existing works, and you have to discuss the limitations and the benefits of those existing studies, and based on those limitations you have to develop your own research gaps and the problem statement. So longer literature review maybe have headings to help group relevant research, like if some of the topics are very relevant, you can group them together. So that will be another advantage. Like if I'm going to do research on cloud computing, then in cloud computing I have to find out the various subtopics. So uh, I can organize or categorize the literature in different terms. So one common way to approach a literature review is to start out broad and then become more specific. Like cloud computing, then you can go for you can say that platform based service. Then further you can go for source management. Then you can go for you can say that AI based resource management to improve quality of service. So these kind of things you can have. So the main tips to write a literature review is: first, briefly explain the broad issues. You don't need to write much about this, just demonstrate you have a knowledge about whole literature review in that particular area. Then narrow down your focus to deal with the studies that overlap with your search. And then you have to find out particular base paper which is very related to your investigation specific. So you spend most of the time discussing those studies which are very relevant. That's it about literature review. So next thing is how you can start literature review. So you have to find out the existing literature. To inform your search, you have to answer the following 4 questions. The first is, what research has been done on this particular topic in which you are going to investigate? What are the main sub areas of the topic you need to explore? So main area, then sub areas, which will help you to narrow down your investigation. What are other search areas which are required you to explore for your particular research? Like sometimes we need to explore other areas which are not directly related to our research, but it has some impact on your research. You have to find out those areas that will be also part of your investigation. How do these subtopics and other research overlap with your investigation? So you have to find out this. So once you have all these things, you will easily map your objectives with the existing research. So next is, note down all your initial thoughts on the topic. You can use a list of to help you identify the areas you want to investigate. So you need to make a list. Further, it is very important to do this before start reading. So you should not waste time on other things. So you should not waste time to reading the irrelevant things. So you could more focused on your particular investigation. To conduct a literature review, you need to find out the sources. From where you can find out the existing literature. So the main thing, you can Google it. So internet is the best place to search and Google it. The particular you can source which can help you at the very starting point is Google Scholar. So Google Scholar will give you all the relevant research papers from different journals, conferences at one place. So that will help you. So most literature review you will need to focus on academically authoritative texts like academic books, journal research reports, and government publications. So which should be published under some journal name, conference name, or any other government authority. Searching Google will give you thousands of hits. Few of them authoritative. You will waste time sorting through them. So what should you do? In this case, if you know that in the Springer this is a particular journal, in the Science Direct or elsewhere this is a particular journal, in IEEE this is another journal. So please directly go to that journal and find out the relevant search articles. That will also save your time. So this is basically an example which shows that how you can compare the existing research works with your proposed objective. This is very important. So in this you can see that there are various columns. One is proposed policy. So there are another parameter, use non-cloud sources, user constraints, user transparency, scheduling level, and goal. So in this table it shows that there are 5 existing studies: reference 5, reference 6, reference 4, reference 2, and reference 8. So they have also values for these parameters, and the last one which is showing here is basically the proposed one, which author is going to start work on this topic, and this is how they are comparing the proposed research work with the existing works or the literature review. So this table is very important, and these days every journal or every, you can say that, publisher want this kind of table at the end of literature review in terms of critical analysis of literature review, to show that how existing work is different than your work, to show the novelty. So this is very important table. So next you have to find out the gaps, exact gaps in the literature. So because you are going to start writing a new research paper, you need to contribute something exceptional or new. So this means you have to find out the exact gaps and find out the 1 or 2 gaps and use those gaps to address that in your research. So your gap should be something that has not yet been researched. So here you have to also map the literature and find out how your work is different than the literature, and is it really new or just a, you can say, just an incremental of the previous things. So make sure that it should be novel as possible. Academic papers conclude with a call for further research on something. So you can use these all the academic papers to build your research gaps. Further things you can read articles, books, chapter, thesis. So keep tracking the relationship between known, unknown, and your contribution. So this is very important. You must have a full knowledge about existing gaps so that you're going to do something new, not going to repeat which is already done in the literature. Okay, basically you have to address some problem which is existing but in a different way with better solution. Try to find an empty square and clear about the contents of adjacent squares. So means you have to find out how this gap can be addressed with the different approach and how you can improve the performance or how you can improve the existing solution with your own approach. So once you have identified all the gaps, search gaps in that particular area, then it's time to formulate the problem. So developing a good research problem is also a very important skill you need to develop if you want to go for PhD or you want to go for research. So it depends. Basically, you can do this problem formulation in two ways. One is you have to identify by yourself by studying the literature, and second is like some PhD supervisors will assign the appropriate problem to the students. So when you are identifying your problem, you must do following things. First of all is brainstorm for ideas. You need to find out ideas, which ideas could fit, and try to generate better solution. So you need to do some brainstorming. Read general background information. So means you must read about what has been researched, what are the solutions has been offered by other researchers for the same problem. You have to find out. So you have to focus on manageable problem. So like your problem should be manageable. It should not be like you can work here for 5 years or 10 years. No, your problem needs to be solved in a particular time frame. So make a list of useful keywords. So like what are the main keywords which are important to your particular problem or research gaps? You have to find out those keywords. Be flexible. So be flexible means you should be flexible to change the scope if you have to change, and if you need more um, studies of literature, then you can go ahead with that also. Define your problem as a focused research question. So this is very important. So you need to define your problem in terms of question. Research and read more about your problem because you need to find out all possible ways to solve that problem. So you must have holistic idea about the problem, the solutions, everything related to that problem. And then at the end you have to formulate the final statement. So be aware, selecting a good problem is not easy. So it's totally a challenging task if you're doing it first time. So it must be narrow, focused, and interesting. You must know that you're going to address this problem and you must have interest in that problem. Before you select your problem, make sure you know what your final research objective should look like. So each problem will have somewhat different requirements and purposes for the research. So this is how you can develop the problem on the top of research gaps. After the formulation of your search problem, now it's time to fix your title of the research. So you should keep in mind the following points when you are finalizing your title. So the title should be clear, short, and concise. So clear means it should tell the readers what you are going to do in this research work. Short, it should not be like 4 lines or 5 lines. Maximum it could be 2 lines. And concise. Concise means it's very narrow and fully focused. And it should be specific, not vague. Your title should not be too general when you give your research paper a title. Make sure that you highlight the most important aspects of your search in the title. Like if you're working about some political movement, then you can mention that particular political movement, whatever it is. Think of your title as a search paper of your abstract. So summary of your search paper. So anyone read your title can understand what is going to be happen in this search work. Due to more suitable title, it will be easier for their reader to identify whether or not they want to read your work or not. So you will make the job of future readers very easy. It marks the range and extent of your search and tells your reader what to expect from this research. Optimize the amount of information you give out in the title, optimize the length of your title, but most of all, make it easier for your readers to find out. Optimizing your title so that it contains keywords that can bring on the top of the searches on the internet. Now you have an idea of the search gaps, problems existing in the literature, and your title. Now it's time to define a specific problem statement. So the problem statement is about research area. What are the performance parameters you're going to improve? How to solve that difficulty? How to solve the problem which is existing in the scholarly literature? And in practice, what you're going to do, what you're going to investigate so that you can produce a better solution for those existing problems. A research problem does not show anything that you're going to do. It offers a valuable question. That is the question which is still unaddressed. You have to address this in this research work. That's it. The main purpose of problem statement is to introduce the reader to the importance of the topic, what it is. Readers is oriented to the significance of study and the research questions which they have to follow when they will study your research article. So you have to put the problem into particular context that define the parameter, what is going to be investigated, what you are going to improve. It provides the framework for reporting the results and indicates what you are going to do and what are the possible steps you are going to conduct to complete this problem, and explain how the finding will present this information which will show this is the better solution than the literature to solve this particular problem. That's all about problem statement. So here is the example of problem statement. So for example, the problem in this community is that it has no hospital. So this is a problem. So what we are going to do for this problem? This only leads to a search problem where particularly need. Need is for a hospital. The second is the objective is to create a hospital, to build a hospital. The third is the method is to plan for building a hospital. What methodology we will use to develop or create that hospital. The last one is the evaluation is to measure if there is a hospital or not. How we can measure and at what distance we need a hospital. So we have to measure everything which is relevant to the hospital or the need of the hospital. This is one sort of problem. So next one is you need to define objectives on the top of problem statement. The scope of your search should be identified by your objectives, means what you are going to achieve and what types of decisions you need to make to achieve those objectives. Before you start, you need to define your objectives clearly, and it is very important if you want to go for a particular research problem, and it will help you to fix the scope of your problem and will avoid wasting time and effort in the later stages. So to design your objectives, you have to ask the following three questions. What is the purpose of research? What information is being required, and how will the information be used? So these three questions are very important when you are defining your objectives. So there are basically four stages of research study to conduct a successful research. So let me explain all these four stages one by one. The first one is check if the same or similar research has been carried out in the past. You must have a knowledge about this. Then for this you must review the literature or relevant data. You must identify when the information is needed and how much you can spend to obtain it. So you need to spend 1 week, 2 week or 3 weeks to find out that particular information. And the last one is deciding how the data will be used and who will use this data. So that's very important. These are the four stages. So to propose a solution for that particular problem, you need to set methodology. Your methodology answers three main questions because you have now objectives. How those objectives will be addressed, you must define everything in the methodology. How did you collect existing data and how did you analyze data? That's a very important thing. The second is how to develop your novel technique to improve existing technique. What is the new solution? What things you will do that it will have better performance than the existing work, better solution than the existing work. How to validate your proposed technique, how to test, how to evaluate your technique in a controlled environment, how you will do the experiments to find out or to validate that your work is better than the existing work. So these three main questions need to be addressed to set methodology. So next is find existing solutions for your problem. You need to discover the relevant facts of an event, issue, procedure or problem. Then you need to review and evaluate existing explanation for the topic which you are going to investigate. Specifically, explanation which may differ from the current research has concluded. So you need to review the consensus of the research finding among researchers and spreading the findings and conclusion for critical review. So these are the basic four steps you need to follow when you will find the existing solutions for your problem. After identifying the existing solutions, now it's time to find out the limitations in those existing solutions. That's very important thing. So you need to describe each limitation in detailed but concise terms. So it should be understandable. The second is explain why each limitation exists. What is the impact of this limitation? If this limitation is there, how this is impacting the current solution, and what you are going to do so that that limitation will be addressed. Offer the reasons why each limitation could not be overcome using the method chosen to gather the data. So you need to cite here existing solutions. Like XYZ, 3 studies has been proposed in the past to offer solution for this particular problem. But study X has this problem, study Y has this problem, study Z has this problem. So those problems we are going to address in our this research work. These are the limitation in the studies X, Y, Z. Assess the impact of each limitation in relation to the overall finding and conclusions of your study. You must be able to assess the impact. You can access this impact through the experiments and see how this limitation is making impact on the overall performance of the system, or if appropriate, if required, describe how these limitations could point out to the need for further research. So based on these limitations, your solution will be proposed. So now it's time to select the parameters which you want to optimize based on the research you are going to conduct. So how you have to select the parameters? Based on the research topic you have chosen, what you are going to improve. If something is related to economy, then you can see that how you can improve the GDP or something. That could be the parameter. If something is relevant to the, you can say, the marketing, then you can say that you are going to improve the customer satisfaction. That could be another parameter. You have to choose based on the topic. So here is the example parameter like execution time, availability, cost in resource scheduling in cloud computing, that you can improve. Other could be like security, network bandwidth, or percentage of load for the wireless sensor networks. So now this is the time to develop technique to solve that problem. So here I am taking example with respect to computer science research. So you have to design a model or architecture. Further, you can design some flowchart, how this model will work, what could be the states, and how the execution will be done in this model. What could be the pseudocode? Pseudocode means like you're writing the algorithm or something like that in like different mathematical formulations. So next is you need to also give the design of that architecture in terms of UML, Unified Modeling Language, or DFD, Data Flow Diagram. The last one, you need some mathematical model. So if you want to go for top transactions, you need mathematical models, which will also help you to validate your search problem. The purpose of this is to improve the existing algorithm and design a new algorithm based on the optimization technique. So earlier we are using optimized techniques from the, you can say, nature inspired algorithms, evolutionary algorithms, but these days we are using the AI techniques or machine learning techniques. Let us discuss these components one by one. The first one is model. So I am going to discuss this model with respect to cloud computing research. So in this you can see that various entities are there. So these are the entities or external actors which are interacting with the system and the cloud. So you can see that this picture shows that it's cloud, and in this cloud there are various services. So we can draw this kind of services, and the interaction of between these external actors and the services has been shown by using the lines. So this kind of model architecture can be drawn to explain the concept of your proposed technique. So we can call it as a conceptual model, whatever it is. So this is basically a layout of your research. This is the second component, which is flowchart. So you can see this is showing the flowchart. In this we have various boxes and how this process will work. So we can say that there are the square boxes which are showing that these are the various steps they have to follow, and there is also diagonal box which is going to check the condition hash matches or not. So if it is matching, then it will be authenticated. If it's not matching, then not authenticated, and it is matching with respect to the database. So these kind of things. So flow chart. So how data will flow? If in this video you can see clearly how data is flowing from the plain text to the outcome, which could be authenticated or not authenticated. So your flow chart could be different for different approach. So this is the example of pseudocode when you are writing your procedure in terms of pseudocode like this. If student grade is greater than or equal to 60, then student will be passed, else student will be failed. So this is just an example of pseudocode. So your pseudocode could be having like 20 lines or 30 lines, which could use some symbols. So basically you're going to write the logic of your technique or logic behind the, you can say that the decisions which are you are going to make, or how you're going to present your technique. If there is a so many, you can say that decision boxes means you have to follow the different loops to find out the final result. So this is one way to write the procedure. So next we have design description. So either you can use UML or DFD to present your design description. So in this slide we have two figures. The one is class diagram, which is part of UML diagram. Another thing is we have DFD, that is data flow diagram. So you can use UML, DFD or both. It's up to you. For UML, we have also class diagram, we have use case diagram, we have state chart diagram, we have other diagrams which you can use to describe the description of the system from the various angles or various dimensions or various perspectives. And DFD level is DFD 0 level, 1, 2, 3, depends upon the level of depth you are going to show to the readers so that readers can understand. This is the basically design description of your approach. So this is another component, that is mathematical model. When you are going to write your pseudocode, obviously you need some mathematical modeling which can tell the readers how you have designed this solution or how you have formulated the problem using the mathematical notations, which can explain in a more better way, because computer science is based on the mathematical uh, models. So we must have this kind of model to explain our problem formulation, solution, and pseudocode or procedure using some mathematical notations to explain in the detail how this model will work mathematically and how these parameters are measuring during the execution process. So this is very simple example of mathematical model. So it could be more complex, depend upon the research you are going to address or you are going to investigate. This is just an example. So next thing is how to validate your proposed approach. For that you need experimental setup, which could be simulation based or which could be real test bed. For cloud computing, people use more simulations like, so for example, we have a cloud sim, iFog sim. These are the best examples for the cloud computing simulation. And for real test bed, we could have Google Cloud Platform, that is GCP, AWS, IBM based software, or we can have Microsoft Azure, which we can use. Further, there is need to draw a figure which can explain or which can show how components are interacting during the runtime, during the execution of the software when you are measuring the results. Then you have to find out the particle parameters and fix it range and fix the range of these parameters to find the experimental results within that range. So like if you have a cost, your cost must be within some range, like $1 to $2 or $2 to $4. It must have a particular range. Similar way, you have other parameters. So you have to fix within that limit, you can choose and execute. So that's why we need to validate the results in a controlled environment. That's the purpose of experimental setup. So after setting up experimental test bed, now it is the time to validate your proposed technique. So for that we have three types of different ways how we can validate the proposed technique. The first is experimental results. So in this we could have some tables or we could have some graphs in which we are going to compare the performance of proposed technique using different selected parameters as compared to baseline or existing works, and show that how this solution is better than the existing works. The second thing is mathematically we have to find the relevant optimized techniques that can implement on your approach based on the parameters, so you can validate mathematically that how your approach has a better solution, how you're going to propose the mathematical model which you have you can say designed in the problem formulation. And the last is you can have also case study at the end to validate your proposed approach. Let's say you have developed some technique which is better than the existing techniques or baselines. Now you're going to validate through some of the case study, like I have developed some cloud computing approach which I'm going to validate through the case study of some IoT application, which can be healthcare, which can be agriculture, which can be traffic management, which can be weather forecasting, any IoT application which I can use to validate that. So these are the basically three validation techniques which you can use to validate the proposed technique. So this slide shows how you are going to write the experimental results using the graphs. So in graphs you have x-axis and y-axis, and both axis and y-axis should be named. So you must write what is the parameter is going to present through the x-axis and what is the parameter going to present through the y-axis. Okay, and you must mention the units in the both x-axis and y-axis to make the job of readers very easy. So you must give, if it is a part of big figure, you can give it figure 1, A1, B1, C1, D, and overall is a figure 1. But if it's these are different, then you can have a figure 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can use histogram or lines to present it. So in this slide you can easily see the one is traditional and one is broadband. Broadband is basically proposed one and the traditional is the baseline or existing technique, and now you are showing that your results are much better than the previous technique. So this is the one way to show the experimental results. So once you will get all the experimental graphs, then it's time to analyze those experimental results. So which will help the readers to understand what has been identified actually in these experiments. So once the data is collected, you must analyze or interpret the experimental results to find out what has been done. So which including some data summaries in terms of like calculating means, variances, or any other percentage of improvement, whatever it is. So most scientists lay out their tables and figures upon the completion of the data analysis before writing the result section. So you could have that your data in terms of figures or in terms of tables. These days various softwares are available which can easily draw your tables or figures from the experiments. So you must write the table and figure legends. It is a good practice to note down one or two key parameter results that each table or figure conveys and use this information as a basis for writing the result section, because result section is very important. That's the most important outcome of your research. Sequence and number of tables and figures in order which best enable the reader to reach your conclusions. So you could either you could start your experiments, um, writing your experiments or result section with the basic experiments, then you're writing a more advanced experiment so that reader can understand in a sequential way. Remember that result section has both text and figures. So there should not be any figure or table which should not be explained. So you must explain each figure and table in detail, its findings, and each figure and table must be cited in the text with its clear description. Use the text component to guide the reader through your key results, those results which answer the question you investigated. Like at the starting, you mentioned like I'm going to improve the performance of this parameter. And now in experimental results, you are showing in the graphs that you have improved that performance. Each table and figure must be referenced in the text portion of result. Like you must tell the reader what key results is that each table or figure conveys. So this is very important. So once you will do this, then readers can easily understand uh, the experimental results and its analysis. So as a part of analysis of experimental results, I must recommend that you must add some subsection called discussion, which clearly show the interpretation of your results, including discussing how your results modify and fit within the what previously understood about the problem in the literature. And now you're going to compare the performance of your technique and the performance of existing technique. So review the literature again at this time and see that how it has been improved. The next thing is you must think about how you are going to write the discussion in terms of trade-offs. Like I have set three parameters. Using this my proposed technology, I am improving two parameters, but I have to compromise with the third parameter. This is we can call trade-off. If you're going to improve this parameter, we have to sacrifice this parameter. So this is basically trade-off. And you must look on this during the interpretation. Be sure to cite the works that you refer to. So here you need to cite those baselines and mention that this was the baseline and this is my improved approach, and we are comparing the performance and my solution is better in terms of these parameters. So once you have done with your experimental results and discussions, so now it's time to conclude your research. So you must write a conclusion which is the final part of your research paper, which must contain everything about you discussed in the paper. So main findings, main discussions you can put in the conclusion. That is the takeaway for the future readers. So you must keep 2 points in your mind while writing the conclusion. The first one is, what has your research shown? Anybody reading the conclusion has read the entire paper, so conclusion will help them to refresh the ideas which has been identified in your paper. And the second thing is, how has it added to what is known about the subject? So what is the new you have done in this area or in this research, and point out how it relates to the field. So you basically going to mention about what are the new things you have identified in this research that you are going to put in the conclusion. So once you have written your conclusion, now it's time to find the future work or future scope for the future readers or searchers, so that they can continue this research to the next level. So in this there are three main points. The first one is, what were the main limitations? Has your research left some unanswered questions? Are my results of any use in the real world? So for first one, related to limitations or shortcomings, you must highlight any deficiencies in your methods or trade-off. If you are going to optimize two parameter and the third parameter is suffering, so you could mention that this is the main limitation of this research work, and the trade-off that could be also refined in the future by different researchers using the different methodology, and what you have learned from these mistakes, and that could be also one of the foundation for the scientific process. For the second point, related to unanswered questions, do your findings open up any session for future research? Like previously, people have used nature-inspired algorithm or bio-inspired algorithm for optimization, but these days people are using AI techniques. For a shorter paper, this is not always essential, but you can highlight any possible areas of interest and give some ideas for those who following your research. So you can give some promising highlights or future directions they can follow to extend your work. The third and final is, are my results of any use in the real world? Again, this is not always applicable, but you can suggest any practical uses for your findings. Like, I have developed some technique which Google industry can use. I have developed some technique for healthcare. XYZ health industry can use my technique. So these are the real world. Even you can also ask for the research grants based on these ideas. That's it about future work. So next we have different steps for research which we need to follow to conduct this research in holistic way. Let us discuss in detail. I would like to talk about simple research process which you can use to conduct your research at any level, like masters, PhD, postdoc, or any higher level. So these are basically easy steps through which you can learn research methodology quickly, and this will give you the basic hint that how you can conduct your research from the starting point to the final outcome. So this is a figure that I have taken from my published research work, and based on my research experience of last decade, I have created this figure, and in which we have some sequence of steps you can follow to conduct the research. Let us talk about these steps one by one. Okay, let us start with the define research questions. So first will be the define research questions, in which you have to define research questions at broad level. Like, you have to choose some domain in which you want to work. So for example, you can choose computer science, then you have to choose subdomain, maybe it could be networking, then you have to choose some topic, you can choose cloud computing, or maybe you can choose subdomain software engineering, and in which you have to choose some topic like software process management, whatever it is. So you can work on particular topic. So here you have some basic research questions which you need to define. So based on these search questions, you have to define search keywords. So search keywords will help you to find out the literature from the Google Scholar or from the different websites of publishers such as ACM, IEEE, Springer, Elsevier or Taylor Francis. So you have to define search keywords, like if you want to work on maybe load balancing in cloud computing, then your search keywords will be cloud computing, resource management, load balancing, quality of service, service level agreement. So these are some kind of keywords that you need to use while finding the research papers from the Google Scholar. So this is the second step, and now you have to move to the third step. So third step will be review existing research work. So based on these keywords, you have some papers. I advise you have to find out the recent papers, so like from the last 3 or 4 years, so which will help you to find out the current status in particular topic. So once you have this current status and once you have this knowledge, then you will be able to decide whether this topic is already researched or not. If researched, then you will have to find out the more documents related to this research, and then you have to find out the specific 5 or 6 papers or maybe 10 papers, and then you have to read all the papers and you have to find out the gap analysis. You have to do the gap analysis, or you have to find out the gaps in every paper in terms of limitations or in terms of challenges in that particular paper or in those 10 papers. So means you have to document that, document those gaps. So this is the positive side. But if topic has not been researched already, then what you will do, then you have to redefine the problem, or you have to find out the more specific topic. So means then you have to rework on your ideas, and you need to do some more brainstorming to redefine your problem or some specific topic in which you can work, because here you have to think about two main things. Are you able to do this work? You have enough experience or you have enough knowledge, technical knowledge to do this work, and you are the right person to do this. The second thing is, do you have enough time to do this research? So these are two important questions you have to ask from yourself before committing towards this research. All right, so we have proper documented research, and then you have to define problem statement. So based on these gaps, you have to find out the problem statement, which you can do by analyzing the existing research. So like if you have done some review of existing research works on load balancing, then your problem statement could be how you can improve load balancing. So that could be the problem. So there are many methods that has been already proposed, and you have to find out the limitation on those methods, and then you can design your own new approach that could help to solve the existing challenges in the load balancing. Then you have to define the objectives. So let us assume your problem is like you are defining like problem statement. I have to reduce energy consumption or cost of cloud data centers. So then what will be the objectives of your research? So here I would like to tell you first, you have at least 3 objectives, and every objective must be started with the word to. So the basic 3 objectives can be to study the existing work, to propose new thing, to validate this through simulation or real systems. If I can take an example of to reduce energy and cost in cloud data centers, then my objective could be like this: to study the existing resource management techniques for various cloud services. You can take an example of like to study the existing techniques for energy aware resource management or cost aware resource management. Or second could be, your objective could be to propose a new framework or to propose a new approach which could solve this problem. Third is to validate the proposed approach or framework in simulated or real environment. That could be the third objective. So these are basic objectives, and you can further subdivide the objectives if you have more refined uh, refined thinking. Based on that, you can design your objectives. Next thing will be how you will achieve the objectives. So for that, you have to define methodology. So methodology will be, it will be like you have a single methodology through which you can provide all the information how you will achieve all the 3 objectives. Another thing is, your methodology could be in a different way, like you have 3 different types of methodologies for 3 objectives. The first objective, to study existing literature. So your methodology could be, to achieve this objective, I would like to explore the existing literature on cost, energy, resource management techniques, which will give me some research gaps, or you can say that some challenges on which I can work. So second objective, to propose this technique. So your methodology could be, to achieve this objective, I would like to design a new framework using heuristic algorithm, or you can say that maybe some AI or ML technique to improve quality of service parameter and to reduce SLA violation, something like this you can talk about. And the third objective, the methodology for third objective could be, to achieve this objective, I would like to implement my proposed framework or approach using simulated or some real environment from Google or AWS, whatever it is. So to define research methodology, you have to collect some data from the existing papers or from some of the industries for analyzing. Then based on this, you can design the framework, and then you have to validate the framework. Okay, so the important thing is here, you have to now check this research plan is appropriate for your research project or not. So here you can take an advice or take help from your colleague or your supervisor or mentor. He or she will help you to find out whether this problem is right and you are the right person to do this, and you have enough time and you have enough knowledge to do this. This is important thing. And once you have clearance about this, and your supervisor or your mentor will be happy that you are capable to do this research work because you have knowledge of this language or tools and technologies, and you have a 1 year to do this. Then you have to go ahead. Then you have to collect and analyze data. Then you have to design framework. So designing framework is very important, and you can design framework only once you have knowledge about existing frameworks. So you can design framework by proposing some architecture, by designing some algorithm, or you can do it through the mathematical formulation, or you can use also UML diagrams. It's if something is related to software engineering or DFD, you can use. Sometimes you can also use flowcharts, but the best base you have proper architecture and its components, and all the components have been explained, should be explained in the text, and then you have a proper algorithm and you have proper formulas which you are going to use to calculate various QoS parameters, or which you will use in that algorithm also. So once you have this design framework, and based on that you have to implement that framework for the testing or for performance evaluation. So you can use any language or tools or technologies whatever available with you. So like these days people are using Python, and you can also use GCP, AWS to implement your work. Anything that's not specific. If search, you're doing research outside computer science, they have some different types of simulators or different types of experimental setup that you can use. So this is how you're implementing through the coding, and you can also design here front end if required. If you want to get input from the user, you can alternatively you can use the IoT devices. So next is validate framework. So this is very important, how you will validate your framework. So once you have proper implementation, then you have to, because I already explained in the step 3, review existing research work, and you have already documented these research works. Then you have to find out 1 or 2 very relevant and very recent works, and then you have to implement all the algorithms or all the approaches. All means your approach and the baselines in the same environment to see their performance. So if your performance will be better than the previous research works or previous approaches, then you have to find out why this performance is better. You have to analyze the results, and through this way you can validate your framework. You can also validate your framework mathematically, or you can also validate your work in both ways. So once you have results in graphical form or in tables, then you have to generate the result report, which will be the outcome of your research project. And this is the simple research process from the step 1 to the last step to generate the result report. And in the result report you have a proper outcomes, and in which you will explain how you have conducted your research and what are the benefits of your research, what are the positive points of your research, and you can also find out some limitations or assumptions of your research, which could be the future work for you or other readers once you will whenever you will publish it as a research paper. So this is very important, and you have to use this simple research process to conduct your research at any level. So now let us discuss the main requirements for research. So conducting a research or investing a research problem is very interesting journey. However, you need a lot of commitment for this to conduct research or to complete this work, because only you are on the driver's seat and you have to complete it. by yourself. Other people around you like collaborators or supervisors, they will help you, they will guide you, but you have to do everything by yourself. So you may get emotional, you may get some technical support from the different people around you like your family, your mentor, other than your supervisor like head of the school or research officer. And it is very important to start experiments or simulation or data analysis as soon as possible. You're going to start the research. Don't delay it too much, otherwise you will get some stress. So real difficulties and issues are quite different from the what you may think have thought initially. So initially you may think like I will get these kind of challenges, but when you're doing this research in an actual environment, you could have to face some real difficulties or issues which could be very different from your thinking. So if you decided to go for research, you must be ready for that. So let us have a look on different types of research. Here I am going to discuss about 6 types of research. The first one is research can be done with different set of parameters. Like in existing technique or existing research, 3 parameters have been optimized. But now I am going to optimize another 3 parameters which has not been optimized in the previous research. So these are 3 other parameters. So this is one type of research. Can the experimental setup be improved? Earlier someone has developed some simulation like cloud sim, and now I could perform those experiments on the real test bed using Google Cloud Platform or Microsoft Azure or AWS setup. So I can use different set of experimental setup. So a search can be incremental. I can use different technique, like earlier I used some bio-inspired or nature-inspired algorithm for the optimization of performance, but now I'm going to use the AI technique. But earlier I have used some deep learning, now I'm going to use explainable AI. So these are different things which I can use. So it could be incremental as well. So I can also use that existing technique to apply on different application. Like someone has developed application or someone has developed some research for healthcare application, but now I'm going to use that existing research on different applications like agriculture, weather forecasting, or traffic management. So I could also design a new framework or policy based on the factual survey or analysis. So this is the fifth one, is very novel, as I have to design everything including framework model from the scratch based on the existing research. But I'm not going to do the incremental thing here. Can certain bounds theory be improved? So I could improve the, you can say that if I have conducted research with some limited parameter in the past, maybe due to some constraint, but now I can improve that research, same research to the, you can say that using the large cloud data center, large environment. Earlier I have conducted and validated data research using some limited parameter like I have number of users 20 or 30, but now I'm going to apply that same research with the large number of users, maybe 1000 or it could be 10,000. So that could be another type of research. So these are various types of research you can explore as per your requirement, as per your passion, as per your need. So next I'm going to discuss about the classification of research. So research can be classified into 4 different types. Like first is optimize. I'm going to optimize the existing parameters using my new research technique. I'm going to validate, like it has been validated earlier in the simulation environment. Now I'm going to validate in the real test bed, or I could have to prove the proposed solution using the theoretical analysis, or I could explore the existing research to see that new trade-offs, how I can play with the parameters to change the value of one parameter is going to make impact on the value of other parameter. So I could explore the existing search through the trade-off methods. What is the role of your supervisor? That's also very important. So I'm going to discuss in the upcoming slide. The role of supervisor is very important to listen to the students' problems, and when you're going to do the research, when you're going to investigate your problem and try to find a solution, you have multiple thoughts in your mind. But your supervisor will help you to make and choose the best one and the focused one thought so that you can go ahead with that thought to complete the research. Talking to your supervisor more than a threshold means like doing the meeting with the supervisor once per week is fine. If you're meeting your supervisor too much, like more than once, so means you are taking responsibility away from you, so you are not serious. So make sure that you must have a proper meeting once a week, and apart from this you must work on the things which has been given to you by your supervisor and complete all these things on your time, so that supervisor can help you to give the new thoughts about the further process instead of wasting time on the same thing. Let us talk about idea generation, how to generate idea. To generate an innovative idea, you must have an idea store. So you need to read widely. So you have knowledge about existing literature, what has been done, what are the other important solutions you could apply to address this problem. You need to study different types of journals having different scientific languages and importance. You may find something interesting from those journals. So you can find those ideas from the various research, various journals. Nowadays, it is interesting to search on Google for some combination of words in which you are interested. So you could use double quotes to search on the Google, and those combinations that will help you to find out the particular search or ideas that you are going to apply in your problem. Talk or communicate with the people working in that area. So sometime you are going to do the interdisciplinary research, then you could have a discussion with your colleagues or other PhD students who are applying some similar ideas to the different problems. So maybe you could apply those ideas in your problem for the better performance. Hope you can find out the better solution through that idea. So that is all about idea generation. A few words of those people who are at cutting edge research may change your life. So it depends on the person to whom you are talking. So when you're generating idea, this could be the flow, like you have an idea, then you could have a research, and finally you can write the paper on the top of that idea. Or you have an idea, you can write a paper, and then that could be also a research in the future. The second thing is you have an idea that will go to journal and become a paper, or you have an idea, you have a paper that you are going to submit to the journal. That could be another perspective. You write a paper, there is always journal to publish, but only good conferences and good journals are looking for only you can say like top works. Top means very innovative works, ideas that has been implemented in the some environment. The next important thing is organization of research paper. Whether you're writing the research paper or review paper, you must know the organization, how to organize, how to set the flow of this research article. The organization of your article depends upon the type of the article or research paper. It could be full length article or original article in which you have a proper new idea properly implemented and validated against the baselines. The next category could be letters or rapid communication or short communication, in which you have only limited information about idea and limited experiments, which are like initial results. Review papers or perspectives. Review papers are basically survey of the existing techniques, and you must find out the limitations and benefits of the existing research for the future readers so they can use those review papers to find out the problem. Poster to present at conference. Some special cases, you have a poster. In one poster you have to write everything about your experiments, like initial results you're going to present it to the audience of the conference. Self-evaluate your work. Is it sufficient for a full article, or are your results are enough to publish a paper? You must understand. You must be able to evaluate it, whether they are enough or not. Ask your supervisor and colleagues for advice on the manuscript type. Sometimes outsiders see things more clearly than you. So like they can give you the different feedback from the different angles. So that will help you to improve the your article to the next level. So now I'm going to talk about the structure of technical paper which must contain these components. The first one is title, abstract, keywords, introduction, related work, contributions, problem statement, objectives, objective function, proposed technique, experimental setup and results, analysis of experimental results, discussions of results, conclusions, future work, acknowledgements if any, abbreviations if any, or finally the references. So let us discuss these components one by one. The first one is title. So in title you have main title, some journals are asking, also subtitle. You can give subtitle if you have, but otherwise it is optional. You don't need to give it unnecessarily if you don't have. So main title should be enough for the reader to find the paper from the literature. A good title should contain the fewest possible words that adequately describe the contents of the paper. So this is very important thing you must remember when you are giving the title to your research paper. Effective titles identify the main issue of the paper. Main issue means which you are going to address. Begin with the subject of the paper, main subject. These titles should be accurate, unambiguous, not confusing anything. Specific, focused, and complete. Are as short as possible, like 7 or 8 words, maximum 10 words you can use. Don't use it like 3 lines or 4 lines, it will confuse. Articles with short or catchy titles are often better cited. So obviously if your title is very short and fully focused, readers can find it and cite it when they will find this article is useful for their investigation. Do not contain rarely used abbreviations. So like you can use IoT, you can use AI, but don't use some of the parameters or some of the abbreviations which are very rarely. Otherwise people won't identify the your paper while searching from the database. Attract readers. Remember, readers are the potential authors who will cite your article. So you have to find the way how readers can find out your paper when they are searching the database regarding particular problem in which context you have written your article. That's the main thing. So next we have abstract. So that is another important part of your paper, and maximum you could have 2 paragraphs for abstract, but I advise you must have only 1 paragraph. In that paragraph you can write everything about this. The first general line about the topic, second is the main issues in that topic, and the third is how this could be addressed if you are going to investigate, and from the fourth line you must write that what you're going to propose in your research. So abstract could be 2 paragraphs in very rare cases. It again depends upon the journal to journal. Abstract has also limitation in terms of number of words. So I advise 200 words are fair enough to write the abstract. So it should be the reason for the paper. So you have to write the main reason of the paper in the abstract and how you have done this investigation, which approach you have adopted in this investigation, and main points of finding and their significance. So main points of finding means you have to mention about the experiments and what has been identified from those experiments and what is the impact of the experiments in the performance. You need to mention all these things in the abstract. So it is very important to identify the correct keywords for your research paper, because based on these keywords future researchers can find your paper from the literature and they can use it as a base paper for their research. Otherwise it is too difficult. So avoiding making them too general or too narrow. If it will be too general, I don't think so any researcher will find out your paper as a specific or focused paper. Too narrow means maybe so that nobody will ever search for it. So electronic word keywords are very important. So based on keywords, they can find your paper or they cannot find your paper. That's it. So you must have this effective approach. Look at the keywords of the article relevant to your manuscript. So I hope when you are conducting your research, you must have some base papers, and based on those base papers, you could have some keywords. Look at those keywords and use some of the keywords which can help you to highlight your research paper to the community. Play with these keywords and see whether they return relevant papers, neither too many nor too few. So you can check these keywords searching through the Google Scholar and see that whether these keywords are important or not. A good keyword can help you to get good citations and good reach of your article. The introduction is the main section of the paper. This will be the first section of your paper. The first few paragraphs should contain aim in writing the paper so that reader understand your objective, why you are writing this paper, and most of the sentences should be written in the form of, in the context of why, what, and how. Sometimes you can use who and when if it is required, so that reader can understand your intention to writing this paper clearly at the starting. So you must use introduction to convince readers that why this work is relevant to them, and you must answer the following series of questions when you're writing the introduction. What is your problem? Are there any existing solutions? Which one is the best? What is the main limitation of that solution which you are going to address in this work? What do you hope to achieve in terms of experimental results, in terms of performance improvement, in terms of new ideas or new analysis, what you're going to do in this research? You must answer these 5 questions in the introduction so that reader can understand this work is really relevant to them, so that they can read your paper. The second section of the paper is related work. We can call it as a literature review. In this, we put the summary of work done by others from the literature, briefly describe the literature on the subject. So these are the existing studies has been done in the literature, and this is the summary of those uh, existing techniques, like in terms of what they have done, um, what is the main benefit of that, what approach they adopted, and what are the limitations which could be addressed in the future. So that could be in terms of gaps. So you must find the gaps in the earlier work, need to work to be done, your own approach to fill the gaps. So these days it is very important to add one table, comparison table, that could clearly mention that what has been done in the existing work. So in this table you can see, like, we have 6 columns. The first is approach, the second is scheduling criteria, scheduling aspects, problem discussed, classification, and tool. So based on this we have 4 studies, 53, 78, 79, and 41, and we have the values for different criteria which we have chosen to compare the existing techniques. So this is very important to include in your research these days, to uh, to clearly tell the reviewers and the readers what is the main novelty of this work as compared to the existing literature. The next section would be the contributions. In this, you must be able to tell the readers about the novelty of your research work. A research paper is an original piece of research, so you must be able to demonstrate that this topic has been not studied before. If studied, this is a new perspective of that study topic. So you must be able to tell the novelty. Second is, you must be able to find out the concrete contribution of your work in terms of list of contributions. That makes this research important to the readers. Why this work is important, what is the contribution of this research to the literature, you must clearly mention. Further, you must able to find out what are the practical or policy implications of your research, and how this research work is filling the gaps, existing gaps in the research, and showing how it can improve the understanding of this topic in the context of this research. So you must be also able to demonstrate that this research has depth and it is a sound piece of scholarly research. So if the article is enough noble, that obviously it will be published at a good place. And you must be able to mention that in terms of list of contributions. So further expand your literature review and give it more depth based on the contributions. So generally when we are writing the list of contribution, we have 3 to 5 points which must be fully focused, which must be specific. You must not repeat the point within those points. You must be able to adequately answer the following questions and able to clearly state how your search has been investigated. If your search is being driven by the gaps in the existing empirical literature, which of these gaps will you attempt to address? Like if you identified 5 gaps in the literature, and how many gaps and which are the gaps you are going to address in your research. The second thing is, if your search is being driven by the application of a particular theoretical approach, then how you are going to use that existing research to the new application, that and how this research is focusing on some new perspective in your work. You must be able to tell the readers. That will explain the list of contribution in terms of the novelty. So through this you are basically answering the question, so what. This requires answering the following things: the importance of the question, why this is important, why this is worthy for the readers, the significance of the findings, why should anyone care, why do they matter, why this work is important for them, what is the main reason, their implication for theory, the limitation to the generalization. So you must have these kind of things in your mind when you're writing the list of contributions. Now you have an idea of research gaps, problems existing in the literature, and your title. Now it's time to define a specific problem statement. So the problem statement is about research area, what are the performance parameters you're going to improve, how to solve that difficulty, how to solve the problem which is existing in the scholarly literature, and in practice what you're going to do, what you're going to investigate, so that you can produce a better solution for those existing problems. A research problem does not show anything that you're going to do. It offers a valuable question. That is the question which is still unaddressed. You have to address this in this research work. That's it. The main purpose of problem statement is to introduce the reader to the importance of the topic, what it is. Readers oriented to the significance of study and the research questions which they have to follow when they will study your research article. So you have to put the problem into particular context, that define the parameter, what is going to be investigated, what you are going to improve. It provides the framework for reporting the results and indicates what you are going to do and what are the possible steps you are going to conduct to complete this problem, and explain how the finding will present this information which will show this is the better solution than the literature to solve this particular problem. That's all about problem statement. So next one is, you need to define objectives on the top of problem statement. The scope of your research should be identified by your objectives, means what you are going to achieve and what types of decisions you need to make to achieve those objectives. Before you start, you need to define your objectives clearly, and it is very important if you want to go for a particular research problem, and it will help you to fix the scope of your problem and will avoid wasting time and effort in the later stages. So to design your objectives, you have to ask the following three questions. What is the purpose of research? What information is being required, and how will the information be used? So these three questions are very important when you are defining your objectives. So there are basically four stages of research study to conduct a successful research. So let me explain all these four stages one by one. The first one is check if the same or similar research has been carried out in the past. You must have a knowledge about this. Then for this you must review the literature or relevant data. You must identify when the information is needed and how much you can spend to obtain it. So you need to spend 1 week, 2 week or 3 weeks to find out that particular information. And the last one is deciding how the data will be used and who will use this data. So that's very important. These are the four stages. So on the top of objectives, we must have an objective function which we are going to optimize with some certain constraints that need to be minimized or maximized using the non-linear programming techniques. So an objective function can be a result of an attempt to express a business goal in terms of mathematical terms or mathematical model for the use in decision analysis, operation research or optimized studies. Like in this example, for simultaneously optimizing time and cost. So we could design the objective function like this: minimum cost into time. So time and cost are defined. The time is basically the deadline and cost is the how much cost we need to execute these particular workloads using different resources. So objective function is basically minimizing something or maximizing something. Like if you are going to minimize cost and time, if you are going to maximize efficiency and performance. So next you have a proposed technique. It has the following components, which could be model, flowchart, pseudocode, design in terms of UML and DFD or mathematical model. So I have explained all these components in detail in the previous slides. Please look back and just learn about this. So next we have experimental setup and results. So we have to set up the experimental test bed. We can choose real test bed or we can choose simulator. For the real test bed, we could have an actual network, the network which we are using our university or campuses, or the simulator, we could have some simulation like CloudSim, NS3, any simulator. And then we have to note down the results using the graphs or tables. So what is the meaning of experimental results? So experimental results means what you have found. The following should be included: the main findings, thus not all the findings. So main finding means what is the main improvement. If you will put everything in the every result in the paper, then paper will be longer than 20 pages or 30 pages. That does not make any sense. You have to find out the only main findings, and finding from the experiment described in the method section. So what you have described in the earlier methodology, you have to give all the experiments related to that. Highlight findings that differ from the findings in the previous publication. Unexpected findings, like basically you are mentioning about how much performance has been improved in terms of parameter XYZ as compared to the baseline or existing techniques. And you could also give some more stat related to the you can say that experiment, like sensitivity analysis, or you can give some coefficient of variance. Depends upon what you are going to investigate and how you are going to investigate as compared to the previous studies. Further, you can explain the results using the figures and tables because illustrations are critical. And figures and tables are the most efficient way to present results because human can easily understand that which technique is performing better than which technique. So it's very clear. If you need more precise values, more values in detail, you could have to look the tables to see that how much performance has been improved as compared to the previous technique. Results are the driving force for the publication. If you have a good result, then obviously good journal will welcome to publish your research in that journal. So make sure that you must improve the performance as compared to the existing work. That will help you to get the publication quickly in the top journal. So your experiment results should be uncrowded plots. There is no need of too many plots. 3 or 4 data sets per figure are enough. Well selected scales, appropriate axis label sizes, symbols clear to read, data sets easily distinguishable. Okay, so you must have x-axis, you must have y-axis. Make sure that you must give the units to the x-axis and y-axis values so that reader can understand it easily. Each photograph or image must have scale marker or professional quality in a corner. Okay, so if it's related to time, you could mention T. So text in the pictures or images should be in English or it should be readable. It should not use any other language because English is the main language to publish paper around the world. Use color only when necessary, otherwise you can use the black and white graphs. If different line styles can clarify the meaning, then never use colors or other thrilling effects. Okay, so sometimes you can use dotted lines, sometimes you can use the straight line without dots. So color must be visible and distinct when printed in black and white. So some people may have no color printer, so then when they are printing your research, you must put the graphs in that way so it could be easily visible and different, so they can easily distinguish between the existing technique and the new technique even in the black and white paper. And do not include long boring tables, otherwise readers will be distracted and they will not show any interest in your work. So make sure that you must add the tables and show the only important values which you have obtained from the your research. So once you have done with the experiments, you have now graphs, you have now figures. Now it's time to analyze the experimental results. So all the results which are not of primary value in supporting the conclusion, please eliminate. We don't need to waste space on the useless experiments. Okay, the next is main tables and figures should be indicated in the text at appropriate points. So they must be cited in the text and they can be inserted at appropriate points or the end of the text. The common fault is repetition in the text of the data contained in the tables, figures, graphs and illustrations. So make sure that if you have given data in the table, you don't need to repeat same thing in the graph or the figure. So you must use one of the following, like tables, graphs, figures, illustration to represent one particular set of data. Reserve the text for drawing attention to the highlights, the unexpected and the significant, and the result should be presented in the logical order, like so the reader can understand the performance has been started from this basic point and it has been reached to the more advanced. Basically, what is the meaning of experimental results? So it is the most important section of your article. Here you get the chance to sell your data. Means here this is the main thing you are going to publish at good place. These experiment results will help you to get the paper at good place. So many manuscripts are rejected because of discussion is weak. So even you have a strong methodology, even you have a strong results, but you are not able to explain them in the detail, then your manuscript could be rejected. To avoid these kind of mistakes, check for the following. How do your results relate to the original questions or objectives outlined in the introduction section? So you mentioned some list of contribution. Are your experiment results are addressing those contributions or not? Do you provide interpretation for each of your results presented? Interpretation means detailed discussion about the variation in the experiments. You must define everything, you must explain all the variations so that reader can understand the variation in the experiments. If this technique is performing better than the existing technique, why? You must answer. And are your results are consistent with what other investigations have reported? If there are differences, why? You must mention about the variance, you must mention about the mean. If your experiment results are different than the previous, then why? You must mention it. Are there any limitations you have identified, like you optimize two parameters, but the third one is suffering for the optimization of two parameter? If third one is suffering, means this is the limitation of this work. You must clearly mention, if I am improving two parameters, then the third one is suffering from that. Does the discussion logically lead to your conclusion? You must able to understand this. So you must have a strong discussion, and everything should be discussed logically from the basic experiments to the advanced, and that will lead to the conclusion of your paper. So you must be careful about two important mistakes. The first is make statement that go beyond what the result can support. You could not overclaim anything. Whatever you have done, experiments are there, you can claim those. But you cannot overclaim anything which you have not done experimentally. Second thing is suddenly introduce new terms or ideas at the end of the search paper, maybe in the result section. That is another bad approach. You should avoid it. You should avoid to introduce any new terms or ideas in the result section. Otherwise, it will confuse the readers or it will confuse the reviewers. Your paper might be rejected due to these things. So you must avoid these two mistakes. So in the discussion section, you must discuss what are the results obtained from the graphs or figures. Do not simply repeat the result already mentioned in the result section. Here you must find out the main findings of your search work and how this impact has been shown in the research. How your results compare with a similar type of results portrayed in literature. Similar or different? If similar, that's fine. If different, why? You have to discuss in detail. You have to give the reason. Any reason for the difference. Possible explanation for the unexpected results. And that might lead to the, you can say, like good discussion for your paper. So once you have done with your experimental results and discussions, now it's time to conclude your research. So you must give conclusion and recommendations in clear, crisp sentences. Don't use any over lengthy sentences. Don't use confusing sentences. It should be clear and written in simple English language so that reader can understand clearly. So when there are many conclusions, less than in order of importance. You have identified this, you have identified this, you have identified this. That's it. In the conclusion section, there is no need to mention about the background, no introduction, no methods, no discussion, no explanation, no references. So you should only mention about the important findings of your article that you have identified in the results section. So simply fire the bullet that you can also use to conclude your search. It's up to the every individual author how they are going to conclude their research. So once you have done with your experimental results and discussions, so now it's time to conclude your research. So you must write a conclusion which is the final part of your research paper, which must contain everything about you discussed in the paper. So main findings, main discussions you can put in the conclusion. That is the takeaway for the future readers. So you must keep 2 points in your mind while writing the conclusion. The first one is what has your research shown? Anybody reading the conclusion has read the entire paper, so conclusion will help them to refresh the ideas which has been identified in your paper. And the second thing is how has it added to what is known about the subject. So what is the new you have done in this area or in this research, and point out how it relates to the field. So you basically going to mention about what are the new things you have identified in this research that you are going to put in the conclusion. So once you have written your conclusion, now it's time to find the future work or future scope for the future readers or searchers so that they can continue this research to the next level. So in this there are three main points. The first one is what were the main limitations? Has your research left some unanswered questions? Are my results of any use in the real world? So for first one, related to limitations or shortcomings, you must highlight any deficiencies in your methods or trade-off. If you are going to optimize two parameter and the third parameter is suffering, so you could mention that this is the main limitation of this research work, and the trade-off that could be also refined in the future by different researchers using the different methodology. and what you have learned from these mistakes, and that could be also one of the foundation for the scientific process. For the second point related to unanswered questions, do your findings open up any session for future research? Like previously, people have used nature-inspired algorithm or bio-inspired algorithm for optimization, but these days people are using AI techniques. For a shorter paper, this is not always essential, but you can highlight any possible areas of interest and give some ideas for those who following your research. So you can give some promising highlights or future directions they can follow to extend your work. The third and final is, are my results of any use in the real world? Again, this is not always applicable, but you can suggest any practical uses for your findings. Like I have developed some technique which Google industry can use. I have some developed some technique for healthcare. XYZ health industry can use my technique. So these are the real world. Even you can also ask for the research grants based on these ideas. That's it about future work. So after future work, there is another optional section, that is acknowledgements. So you can acknowledge the people who helped you in this research, who have given you guidance, inspiration, assistance, or financial help from the individual organization. If you are working on some funded project, you could mention about the research grant and its funding ID number. So this section is totally optional, but I think it looks good to mention something who helped you during this research and any grant or funding organization. So abbreviations are also very important part of the paper. So you must be carefully use the abbreviation when you are writing the paper. So abbreviation must be defined on the first use in both abstract and main text. If you already defined in the abstract, you must also define in the main text, but only one time. So some journals even forward the use of abbreviation in the abstract. So you must read the instruction of the journals or the guidelines for the authors for particular journals to check this. Abbreviations that are firmly established in the field do not need to be defined. Like DNA, we all know that what is DNA. We all know that what is AI, artificial intelligence. We don't need to define again and again. Never define an abbreviation of a term that is only used once. So no need to define if you have used only once. Avoid acronyms if possible. Abbreviation that consist of initial letters of a series of words. So can be difficult, or maybe it is difficult to understand for the outsiders. So you must be careful when you are using some abbreviations. So some of the words which are not very used to, I advise better to use the full definition of that word instead of using the abbreviation, otherwise it will confuse the readers. So next section is references. Every references listed at the end of the paper should be cited in the text. There should not be any reference uncited. So you can use this reference style based on the journal's requirements or the criteria. Like IEEE has different citation requirements, by Elsevier has totally different than IEEE. So you must know that how to write it. So these are basically more about you can say Harvard style. So by author names, like one author you can write Singh, comma, the year of publication. Two authors you can write Singh and Burma. This is. But if more than two authors, you can write at all and the year. So author's name is the part of the sentence. So either you can write this is reported by Singh et al. 2011. So it depends upon how you are using it and what is the context of the reference that you are going to use. So please carefully look at the previous studies relevant to that particular journal and see that how they have used. So follow that particular style when you will use for your own research paper. So now how to list the references. You must have list of reference at the end of the paper because you used in the text. Follow a uniform format for the listing the references, whether it is IEEE, whether it is Elsevier, whether it is Springer. So for example, in APA format, list in alphabetical order if cited by author's name in the text. For IEEE, list them number wise if cited by a number in the list. So these are just two examples for the references. The one is journal article, like the name of the authors, then name of the paper, then name of the journal, then volume, then issue, then page 4 to 70, and the year of publication. But the second one is for books. You could write author name, the title of the book, publisher of the book, and the year of publishing. So here is the example of IEEE format. So you can write the reference in the IEEE format using the following format. So that's all about technical paper. Now I'm going to talk about review paper. So this is the structure of review paper. It must contain title, abstract, keywords, introduction, background, review technique, results, limitation of review, implications of research work, conclusion, future work, acknowledgements, abbreviations, and references. Let us discuss one by one. So let us discuss these components one by one. The first one is title. So in title, you have main title. Some journals are asking also subtitle. You can give subtitle if you have, but otherwise it is optional. You don't need to give it unnecessarily if you don't have. So main title should be enough for the reader to find the paper from the literature. A good title should contain the fewest possible words that adequately describe the contents of the paper. So this is very important thing you must remember when you are giving the title to your research paper. Effective titles identify the main issue of the paper. Main issue means which you are going to address. Begin with the subject of the paper, main subject. These titles should be accurate, unambiguous, not confusing anything. Specific, focused, and complete. Are as short as possible, like 7 or 8 words, maximum 10 words you can use. Don't use it like 3 lines or 4 lines, it will confuse. Articles with short or catchy titles are often better cited. So obviously if your title is very short and fully focused, readers can find it and cite it when they will find this article is useful for their investigation. Do not contain rarely used abbreviations. So like you can use IoT, you can use AI, but don't use some of the parameters or some of the abbreviations which are very rarely. Otherwise people won't identify the your paper while searching from the database. Attract readers. Remember, readers are the potential authors who will cite your article. So you have to find the way how readers can find out your paper when they are searching the database regarding particular problem in which context you have written your article. That's the main thing. So next we have abstract. So that is another important part of your paper, and maximum you could have 2 paragraphs for abstract, but I advise you must have only 1 paragraph. In that paragraph you can write everything about this. The first general line about the topic, second is the main issues in that topic, and the third is how this could be addressed if you are going to investigate, and from the fourth line you must write that what you are going to propose in your research. So abstract could be 2 paragraphs in very rare cases. It again depends upon the journal to journal. Abstract has also limitation in terms of number of words. So I advise 200 words are fair enough to write the abstract. So it should be the reason for the paper. So you have to write the main reason of the paper in the abstract and how you have done this investigation, which approach you have adopted in this investigation, and main points of finding and their significance. So main points of finding means you have to mention about the experiments and what has been identified from those experiments and what is the impact of the experiments in the performance. You need to mention all these things in the abstract. So it is very important to identify the correct keywords for your research paper, because based on these keywords future researchers can find your paper from the literature and they can use it as a base paper for their research. Otherwise it is too difficult. So avoiding making them too general or too narrow. If it will be too general, I don't think so any researcher will find out your paper as a specific or focused paper. Too narrow means maybe so that nobody will ever search for it. So electronic word keywords are very important. So based on keywords, they can find your paper or they cannot find your paper. That's it. So you must have this effective approach. Look at the keywords of the article relevant to your manuscript. So I hope when you are conducting your research, you must have some base papers, and based on those base papers, you could have some keywords. Look at those keywords and use some of the keywords which can help you to highlight your research paper to the community. Play with these keywords and see whether they return relevant papers, neither too many nor too few. So you can check these keywords searching through the Google Scholar and see that whether these keywords are important or not. A good keyword can help you to get good citations and good reach of your article. The introduction is the main section of the paper. This will be the first section of your paper. The first few paragraphs should contain aim in writing the paper so that reader understand your objective, why you're writing this paper, and most of the sentences should be written in the form of, in the context of why, what, and how. Sometimes you can use who and when if it is required, so that reader can understand your intention to writing this paper clearly at the starting. So you must use introduction to convince readers that why this work is relevant to them, and you must answer the following series of questions when you're writing the introduction. What is your problem? Are there any existing solutions? Which one is the best? What is the main limitation of that solution which you are going to address in this work? What do you hope to achieve in terms of experimental results, in terms of performance improvement, in terms of new ideas or new analysis, what you're going to do in this research? You must answer these 5 questions in the introduction so that reader can understand this work is really relevant to them, so that they can read your paper. The next section is the background, which classify the existing techniques, and it is very important part of survey or review article, which will give you the evolution of existing techniques in terms of the year. So this figure clearly shows that this is showing the existing techniques from the year 2019 to 2015. So the next thing is, so for each year you have to mention in particular research technique along with its focus of study, like the research findings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as per the year. So this will help the readers to understand the technique name and its particular focus and its year. This slide is basically showing the review technique that you need to use to conduct the survey. So it contains 3 main important components. First is the method that you use to collect the papers. The second is the searching keywords that you use to collect the papers. And the third is database from which you have used to collect those papers. So this is the standard methodology everyone has to follow to find out the papers from the databases. It contains 4 stages. The first stage, we have to eliminate some of the articles based on the title which are not relevant to our scope. The second thing is stage 2, we have to eliminate some of the articles based on the abstract and conclusion. Third stage, we have to eliminate some of the articles which are not relevant after reading the full text. And the fourth stage, some of the common papers are there, papers are not published at good places, we can remove those papers. So finally we will end up with the some particular specific strong articles from the top publications. That will be our main outcome of this review method. So in this we can use ACM, IEEE, Springer or Google Scholar to find out the relevant research papers. So those are the main databases we can use. Apart from that, we can also use Elsevier, Science Direct, or we can use other, you can say that, databases available from the different publishers. So in this table 1 is also showing the keywords which we can use to find out the particular papers when we are searching from Google Scholar or other publishing databases. We can write in the double quotes and we can change it and replace it with other synonyms to find out the relevant papers. So this is very important. You can say that a review technique we can use to find out the or collect the relevant papers to conduct the review. So as a part of review technique, we have to identify the review questions and we must compare our work with the previous surveys. So you can see clearly there are 5 set of questions which we can use to find out the main motivation of the review. Based on these questions, I am going to start the review. I am going to conduct the review. So these are my motivational questions that should be in my mind when I am going to conduct this review. So these 5 questions will be answered in the review and I will find out the maximum literature related to these 5 questions and I will categorize in using some tables, figures and list in the points so that future readers can understand it clearly. Further, we have a comparison table. So in this we are going to compare the existing surveys and we are mentioning that this survey has been done in the particular year but this survey was focusing on this. So another survey has been done in this year and focusing on that topic. But the survey on this particular topic is missing or it is outdated. So that's why we need new survey or review paper. The main finding of the review paper or survey article can be shown using some figures or graphs. So there are basically 3 ways we can write. So one graph could be number of paper versus year. So the second could be type of paper. The types can be theory, simulation, real test bed based, different types of, and type of publications. That could be like a white paper, journal, conference, workshop, or transactions, whatever it is. So we could have other options that we can use those options to highlight the results or outcomes in the existing work. So it is very important to mention the limitation of review because some of the important things maybe you have missed in the literature review because that could be out of the scope or you have some limitation in the number of pages that you can publish in the particular journal. So there is no best way to structure the research limitation section of your search paper, but there are main important 3 moves that you could use to write the research limitation. That could be announcing, reflecting and forward looking move. The first one is announcing. What is announcing move? It allows you to identify the limitation of your research paper and explain how important each of these limitations is. So this will help readers to understand these are the current limitations of this review and this could be addressed in the future. The second is reflecting move, which gives you greater depth, helping to explain the nature of the limitations, types of limitation and justify the choices that you made during the search processes. Why these are the limitations, why you did not cover these. Finally, we have forward looking move. That is very important. How this research can be progressed in the future. You are going to suggest how such limitation could be overcome in the future. This is very important. The collective aim, the main aim of these 3 moves is to help the reader to walk through your research limitation section in a structured way to understand what are the things has been covered and what are the things not covered related to particular topic in this review or survey article. So this will help the reader to recognize the limitation of your own search, that you understand why such factors are limitation and can point to the ways of combating these limitations if future search was carried out. So how any future searcher, future reader can do that and how these limitations will be overcome in the future. Basically, you are going to give them the path they must follow to address these limitations in the future. So next important section will be implications of your search work. So you can write a 1 paragraph to mention about who will take the advantage of this review article or survey article in terms of research scholars, professionals or industry experts. So how this article will be useful for the research scholars and how it will be useful for the professionals and how industry experts can use this article. So you can mention the importance of this article with respect to 3 key stakeholders. So in the discussion section, you must discuss what are the results obtained from the graphs or figures. Do not simply repeat the result already mentioned in the result section. Here you must find out the main findings of your search work and how this impact has been shown in the research. How your results compare with a similar type of results portrayed in literature. Similar or different? If similar, that's fine. If different, why? You have to discuss in detail. You have to give the reason. Any reason for the difference, possible explanation for the unexpected results. And that might lead to the, you can say like good discussion for your paper. So once you have done with your experimental results and discussions, now it's time to conclude your research. So you must give conclusion and recommendations in clear, crisp sentences. Don't use any over lengthy sentences. Don't use confusing sentences. It should be clear and written in simple English language so that reader can understand clearly. So when there are many conclusions, list them in order of importance. You have identified this, you have identified this, you have identified this. That's it. In the conclusion section, there is no need to mention about the background, no introduction, no methods, no discussion, no explanation, no references. So you should only mention about the important findings of your article that you have identified in the results section. So simply fire the bullet that you can also use to conclude your search. It's up to the every individual author how they are going to conclude their research. So once you have done with your experimental results and discussions, so now it's time to conclude your research. So you must write a conclusion which is the final part of your research paper, which must contain everything about you discussed in the paper. So main findings, main discussions you can put in the conclusion. That is the takeaway for the future readers. So you must keep 2 points in your mind while writing the conclusion. The first one is what has your research shown? Anybody reading the conclusion has read the entire paper, so conclusion will help them to refresh the ideas which has been identified in your paper. And the second thing is how has it added to what is known about the subject. So what is the new you have done in this area or in this research, and point out how it relates to the field. So you basically going to mention about what are the new things you have identified in this research that you are going to put in the conclusion. So once you have written your conclusion, now it's time to find the future work or future scope for the future readers or searchers so that they can continue this research to the next level. So in this there are three main points. The first one is what were the main limitations? Has your research left some unanswered questions? Are my results of any use in the real world? So for first one, related to limitations or shortcomings, you must highlight any deficiencies in your methods or trade-off if you are going to optimize two parameter and the third parameter is suffering. So you could mention that this is the main limitation of this research work, and the trade-off that could be also refined in the future by different researchers using the different methodology, and what you have learned from these mistakes, and that could be also one of the foundation for the scientific process. For the second point related to unanswered questions, do your findings open up any suggestion for future research? Like previously, people have used nature-inspired algorithm or bio-inspired algorithm for optimization, but these days people are using AI techniques. For a shorter paper, this is not always essential, but you can highlight any possible areas of interest and give some ideas for those who following your research. So you can give some promising highlights or future directions they can follow to extend your work. The third and final is, are my results of any use in the real world? Again, this is not always applicable, but you can suggest any practical uses for your findings. Like I have developed some technique which Google industry can use. I have developed some technique for healthcare. XYZ health industry can use my technique. So these are the real world. Even you can also ask for the research grants based on these ideas. That's it about future work. So after future work, there is another optional section, that is acknowledgements. So you can acknowledge the people who helped you in this research, who have given you guidance, inspiration, assistance, or financial help from the individual organization. If you are working on some funded project, you could mention about the research grant and its funding ID number. So this section is totally optional, but I think it looks good to mention something who helped you during this research and any grant or funding organization. So abbreviations are also very important part of the paper. So you must be carefully use the abbreviation when you are writing the paper. So abbreviation must be defined on the first use in both abstract and main text. If you already defined in the abstract, you must also define in the main text, but only one time. So some journals even forward the use of abbreviation in the abstract. So you must read the instruction of the journals or the guidelines for the authors for particular journals to check this. Abbreviations that are firmly established in the field do not need to be defined, like DNA. We all know that what is DNA. We all know that what is AI, artificial intelligence. We don't need to define again and again. Never define an abbreviation of a term that is only used once. So no need to define if you have used only once. Avoid acronyms if possible. Abbreviation that consist of initial letters of a series of words. So can be difficult, or maybe it is difficult to understand for the outsider. So you must be careful when you are using some abbreviations. So some of the words which are not very used to, I advise better to use the full definition of that word instead of using the abbreviation, otherwise it will confuse the readers. So next section is references. Every references listed at the end of the paper should be cited in the text. There should not be any reference uncited. So you can use this reference style based on the journal's requirements or the criteria. Like IEEE has different citation requirements, by Elsevier has totally different than IEEE. So you must know that how to write it. So these are basically more about you can say Harvard style. So by author names, like one author you can write Singh, comma the year of publication. Two authors you can write Singh and Burma. This is. But if more than two authors, you can write at all and the year. So author's name is the part of the sentence. So either you can write this is reported by Singh et al. 2011. So it depends upon how you are using it and what is the context of the reference that you are going to use. So please carefully look at the previous studies relevant to that particular journal and see that how they have used. So follow that particular style when you will use for your own research paper. So now how to list the references. You must have list of reference at the end of the paper because you used in the text. Follow a uniform format for the listing the references, whether it is IEEE, whether it is Elsevier, whether it is Springer. So for example, in APA format, list in alphabetical order if cited by author's name in the text. For IEEE, list them number wise if cited by a number in the list. So these are just two examples for the references. The one is journal article, like the name of the authors, then name of the paper, then name of the journal, then volume, then issue, then page 4 to 70, and the year of publication. But the second one is for books. You could write author name, the title of the book, publisher of the book, and the year of publishing. So here is the example of IEEE format. So you can write the reference in the IEEE format using the following format. So in the previous slides, we have discussed about how we can write a survey article, review article, or technical article. Now it's time to submit a research paper or review article to the journal. So now you're going to think about submitting your research article to the journal or conference based on the scope or time. And another parameter you can consider the review process. Sometimes there is a review process is double blind, or sometimes it is a different peer review, and sometimes it will take 1 month to review in some conferences, or for some journals it will take more than 6 months. It depends on the particular, that how much time you have and how much uh, research is original, so that it could be published at top place. So how to get published? Before you start, you must select your audience who will read your paper once published. You must find out the conference or journal based on that, and the article structure, how you have to structure the article, like a single column, double column, any general requirement or any conference requirement based on the font size, number of pages, and the review and editorial process. How much time do you have? If there is a conference, it will take 1 month. If there is journal, it could take more than 6 months also. Depends upon the journal to journal. Further, you have to find out the list of references at the end of your paper to narrow down your choices. So this will help you to select the particular journal or conference based on those references, because similar papers has been already published some conferences or journals which are clearly given at the end of the paper in terms of references. Then based on these references you could review recent publication in those journals or conferences and find out the hot topics and accepted types of articles that will help you to check whether this journal is good for you or not. So next is, ask yourself the following questions. Is the journal peer reviewed? I advise to submit where a journal is fully peer reviewed. Either it is single or double blind. Who is this journal audience? Once your paper will be published, who will read it? And what is the general impact factor? So this is a mathematical parameter which will help you to tell about that how this journal is good, and based on that impact factor. Do not gamble by submitting your manuscript to more than one journal at a time. That could be dangerous, and that will also break the international ethics. So international ethics standards prohibit multiple and simultaneously submission, and editors do find out. So definitely they will find out. So don't do this mistake. If you submit two papers to different journals, that's fine. If you're submitting same paper to different journals, that would be very dangerous. Basically, why you want to publish? Publishing is one of the necessary steps embedded in the scientific research process. It is also necessary for the graduation and career progressions. So you cannot submit your thesis without publications. So now the next question is, what to publish? What article can be published? New and original results or methods. The next one could be reviews or summaries of particular subject. The third one could be manuscripts that advance the knowledge and understanding in a certain scientific field. So those three types of articles you can publish, but not to publish reports of no scientific interest. If there is no value of article, then you don't need to publish. Any outdated work, if you have done some work 5 years ago, there is no point to publish now. Duplications of previously published work, otherwise you will be in trouble if you will publish same work. Incorrect or unacceptable conclusions. So if you have developed some new technique which does not improve any performance, there is no point to publish that work. You need a strong manuscript to present your contribution to the scientific community. So this is a very important thing. Otherwise, no need to publish. Now question is, what is a strong manuscript? The manuscript which has a novel, clear, useful and exciting message, presented and constructed in a logical manner, which contain all the sections which I covered in the previous slides. Reviewers and editors can grasp the scientific significance easily. If reviewers and editors are not able to understand your investigation, then it will be difficult to publish. So you must write the paper in that way so that both reviewers and editors can understand. That will also help you to get the more citation when the future readers will read it. Editors and reviewers are all busy scientists, so make things easy to save their time. So you must write the paper in a simple language so that they can understand it quickly and help you to publish. So there are some important questions that you must have to answer before you write. Think about why you want to publish your work. Is there anything important in your head that is triggering you to publish? Is it new or interesting? Is it a current hot topic like people are working on AI, chat GPT at these days? Have you provided a solution to difficult problems? Are you ready to publish at this point? Like this is enough for publication or you need more investigation? If all answers are yes, then start preparations for your manuscript. So one more thing I would like to talk about here. So these are the following components which are very important when you are going to target particular journal, whether a journal is indexed or not. If indexed, where it is indexed, SCI or Scopus. SCI indexed journals are much better than the Scopus. So then you have to check whether a journal is open access or not. So open access journals will help you to publish your article free of cost to everyone. There are no restrictions. Anyone can go to the journal website and they can download your article from there because it is available under the open access license. Apart from this, if you are going to publish non-open access journal, then you can upload your article on archive. Next important component is plagiarism. Make sure that you should not copy anything from anywhere, otherwise you are going to break the research ethics and it will be also called as copycat. So to avoid this, you must write in your own language, paraphrase it and give the proper citation from where you have taken that arguments or the claims. The next is impact factor. So impact factor is another important parameter that will help you to find out the right journal. So what is the impact factor? So impact factor is the average annual number of citations per article published. So you can use the formula, that is impact factor is equal to number of citations divided by number of articles. So for example, 2008 impact factor is equal to A divided by B. So what is A? A is the number of times article published in 2006 and 2007 were cited in the index journals during 2008. So articles published between the year 2006 and 7 but indexed in during 2008. And B, the number of citable items, usually articles, reviews, proceedings, notes, not editorials, and letter to the editor published in 2006 and 2007. So the value of A is here 600. The value of B is here 200. The impact factor is 3. So this slide shows the review process. Once your paper is ready, so we have three entities here. One is author, one is editor, and another is reviewer. So once the paper is ready, author will start submit a paper to the journal. Then it will goes to editor, and editor will check the basic requirements met or not. If met, then assign reviewers, and it will go to the reviewers. So reviewer will review it and give the recommendation. So generally reviewer can give the 4 recommendations: accept, reject, minor revision or major revision. And for good journal, there is need of at least 2 reviewers to make a decision. So then editor will collect reviewer recommendations and make a decision. It could be accept or it could be reject, it could be major revision or it could be minor revision. Depends. So let's see, if editor is making some revision, then it will goes back to the author, and author will revise it and address all the comments and submit back, and it will follow the same process, go through again review process, and if reviewers will be happy, then it will be accepted, otherwise paper can be rejected. So if requirements are not meeting at the initial stage, then it could be rejected also. So rejection can be done at any stage. So that's all about the review process. So you need to pay attention to the following points. Before you present your new data, put them into perspective first. Be brief, it is not a history lesson. So do not mix various sections such as introduction, results, discussion and conclusions. Keep them separate in a logical manner. Do not overuse expressions such as novel, first time, first ever, paradigm shift, because you are just going to investigate the problem and proposing new thing on the top of the existing literature. So cite only relevant references. Otherwise, editor or reviewer may think you don't have a clue where you are writing about. So you must be careful about this. Once you submit your paper to the journal, the possible outcomes of your paper are reject, accept, minor revision or major revision. So it's very rare to get acceptance at first decision, and if your paper has some serious problems, serious issues which are very difficult to address in the revisions, then you must get rejection. But if your paper has some merits, then you can get either major or minor revision. So let us understand the difference between minor and major revision. So minor revision means your manuscript is worthy to be published but needs some clarification, restructuring. Some of the text need to be shortened, some of the text need to be expanded, need some alteration in the text. But in case of major revision, your manuscript may be worthy to be published, but significant limitation must be corrected before acceptance. It could involve significant textual alterations or additional experiments. That is the main difference. Additional experiments. Major revision does not guarantee acceptance after revision. You must be careful about this. But in both cases, you have chance to get acceptance in 1 or 2 rounds if you will revise it carefully. The rejection is also an important part of research journey. So this is not the end of the world. So everyone has paper rejected. So there is no need to take it personally. So you must able to find out why the paper has been rejected. You must find out what are the main reasons of rejection. Note that you have received the benefit of the editors and reviewers' time. So take their advice seriously and revise it carefully before submitting to another journal. So reevaluate your work and decide whether it is appropriate to submit the paper elsewhere. If comments are very, you can say that against your publication, you must think whether you need more experiments, whether you need to understand what are the main limitations, and whether you need to overcome some of the limitations to try some other journal. Otherwise, you will end up wasting your time. If so, then you must going to write a article from the different perspective and read the guide for the authors of new journal again and again, so that your paper should be ready to pass the initial checks and it will go for the peer review process. So finally, very important slide, and this slide is clearly showing that how your plan is going throughout your research journey, whether you have completed your milestones as per planned or it has been deviated from the actual plan. So if you can see in this slide, so this is our main objective and this is the zone of success, and you can see starting is here and this is the planned completion. So this research will be completed as per this plan. However, this is the actual path, because we are very new to this research and we have to face many difficulties. That's why it will take more time. That's very normal for every researcher when you're going to start your research. So you can easily see the where you stand relative to your plan. So this is the basically planned path and this is the actual path and actual completion. So you will get desired results almost near to what you want to achieve in the planned you can say proposal of your search. Further, this figure is also showing that you want to achieve particularly your decided or your original goal, but if you can see you're able to achieve just close to your goal, maybe you need more search in the future to achieve this goal. So this is a part of your first search journey, and now you have to more time to explore further things as you have learned the basic things about the research, how to conduct research and its further aspects. So this is the main reference for this presentation. So also the link of this article has been given in the description. You can explore this research work to understand more about these concepts which I have discussed in this online session. Okay, so here is the brief biography of myself. So you can have a look, and I have also given my email address which you can use to communicate if you think that how we can collaborate together in the future. I would be happy to collaborate in my research area such as cloud computing and Internet of Things. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Stay tuned for future giveaways. Thank you.